Hello there, my name is Belle, and my character's name is May.
Bea is a 110-year-old woman with permed purple hair, and despite her age, she's still able to walk by herself.
On the inside, she tends to put a lot of pressure on herself. She has a tendency to make rash decisions, and there may be a tiny bit of greed lurking underneath.
Once upon a time, there was a couple, June and Leon, that lived a peaceful life and had a bright future ahead of them.
Every day Jack gets into trouble. His favorite thing to do is play with his owner's clothes.
Until one day, a mysterious inventor meets Alex and offers to sell him a device to steal happiness from others to make himself feel better.
Because of that, the conductor taught her how to conduct in Central Park.
Until finally, Alex gets injured and Noah gets off the set once the building explodes.
And ever since then, Cupio continued his job with the knowledge and appreciation of its importance.
And welcome to tonight's live stream of Story Experiential. My name is Dennis Henderson, and I am your host moderator. During the day, I serve as the executive director and the educator of a youth development center located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. For the past 20 years, I've crafted numerous projects and programs reflecting real-world opportunities, yet none has been more amazing than the collaboration with a few amazing people from Pixar and Khan Academy, which led to the dynamic team of X in the Box, the creators of this amazing program. Today, I'm honored to be your host moderator, and I'm fortunate to witness the creative journey of everyone participating in Story Experiential across the globe. We're just under 3 weeks until the deadline to submit to our September exhibition. Apologies for sharing 2 different submission dates. So to clarify, to participate in the September exhibition, you must submit your story reel by Friday, September 8th. The submission button is already live and you can access it from your dashboard by clicking on the exhibition button. As a reminder, we welcome all submissions, whether it's a revision of your story from the May exhibition or a brand new story idea. Rough drafts or works in progress stories are also accepted. All right, let's get started. As we teed up in our previous live stream, we're excited to continue discussing the upcoming stop motion puppet and 2D animated feature film, The Inventor. Tonight, we're thrilled to bring the writer and director of The Inventor, Jim Capobianco. Please welcome Jim Capobianco.
Hey, hi everyone. It's lovely to be here. Really appreciate you welcoming me to talk about story. Should I keep going? Talk about me?
If you could share a little bit as far as your path to get to where you are today, that would be great. From my understanding, you're somewhere in Oakland, California, and I don't think that's where you started. So you could
that's right. I grew up in New Jersey, and then until I was 18, and I went to school at Cal Arts, where I met this guy, Pete Docter, who now runs Pixar Animation Studios. That's me down there. I've always been a little tiny guy compared to Pete. Now, Cal Arts was the only school other than Sheridan in Canada that you could learn animation and study animation at the time. This was, now there's many, many schools, and this was one of the only ones to go to. So this was before computer animation even came around. And so I went there to study animation, but then I met this guy down here, Joe Rampt. He was our story teacher, and he was an amazing storyboard artist. He worked at Disney and eventually worked at Pixar, Toy Story, and many of their films. And Joe inspired me to go into story. I thought I'd be an animator at from Cal Arts, but Joe showed me there was this whole other world of telling stories through animation. And then I also, on the man on the right, that's Sandy McKendrick, Alexander McKendrick. He was the dean of the Cal Arts Film School. and he taught a live action class called Dramatic Structure. And here he's working with Alec Guinness on one of his films he worked on in England called The Man in the White Suit. And from Sandy McKendrick, I learned a lot of story drama and dramatic storytelling in the live action realm. But he loved animators because he could draw as well. He would storyboard his films. So he always had a little appreciation for what we could do in animation and drawing and everything. So I was inspired by these two men. I think it's important to have mentors as you move forward, and it's great having guides who can point you in the right direction. Then I moved to Disney, and I worked on The Lion King, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Fantasia 2000. And once again, I met another great mentor, Joe Grant, who goes all the way back to Snow White. He was kind of Walt's story man, and he worked at Disney for many years, and he was just great connection to the old Disney studios, and just wonderful. And then I moved up to Pixar. Joe, actually, who I mentioned earlier, he's the one who got me to Pixar. He saw my storyboards on Fantasia 2000, and he said, "Hey, you're getting pretty good. You should come up to Pixar." So I gave him a call, and he said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you called me. This is crazy. One of our storyboard artists just left, and we're in a crunch, and we need help." So he sent me. I flew up there because Pixar's up in Northern California and Disney's down in Burbank in LA. Went up there, met Joe and Andrew Stanton, who would later direct Finding Nemo and many other films, and met the two of them. They hired me on the spot, and then I worked on Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Nemo, and then Ratatouille. And on Ratatouille, I was the head of story, and I got to write, and I convinced the original director, Jan Pinkova, that we should write the screenplay, because he had a very unique idea for this film. There was this rat who wanted to cook in Paris. It was very specific, and I told him, no one else can tell this story but you, Jan, so we should try to do it together. And I was a little cavalier about it because I wanted to write a screenplay, so I convinced him to do this. So doing that, we got a screenplay Oscar because we teamed up later with Brad Bird, who took on the movie like about 5 years after we started. So I helped Jan write the script. Then I had a story team I managed, who also helped develop the story even farther. And then eventually we handed it to Brad Bird, who brought it to the film it is now. So that's me there, and there's Brad, and that's Jan over here. And unfortunately, though, we didn't win the Oscar, and we were only the second animated film ever to be nominated for a screenplay Oscar. And we didn't win. She won. That's Diablo Cody, and she won for Juno. So everyone remembers Juno. It's a good film. And then I made a short film called Your Friend the Rat. I wrote and directed that, and you could see it on Disney Plus. Also pirated on YouTube and various places. Then I did the credits for WALL-E and developed this, kind of had a storyline for that as well. I had to finish the film in the credits because they did a test screening, and everybody got sad because it didn't seem like these humans who were blobby humans could survive. And so they decided we have to show them surviving and living. So I had to tell that story in the end credits, as well as make sure I showed everybody's name and all that. Then I worked on Up, Inside Out, and Dory, and Coco was the last film I worked on at Pixar. So I had a great career there. I did a lot of storyboard work and ran a team and wrote and directed. But I really wanted to do even more, and I wanted to expand my wings more. So I left Pixar, and I started my own little company called Aerial Contrivance Workshop, where we design and develop stories. And one of the first projects we did was Mary Poppins Returns, and that was a lot of fun. I had to develop the 2D sequence for that. And then the next project was a project called Philharmonia Fantastique, which is kind of a Fantasia piece, that it plays in front of symphonies, and it's still out. It's making its tour now, and it comes back to San Francisco very soon. I'll send a link to where you can learn about Philharmonia. So that's me. That's my career, and now we come to the inventor. So, should I take any questions first, or what do you want to do?
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of questions coming in, but I just because, even as you was going through these experiences, it's one thing to say, hey, you got this wonderful body of work, but, especially for our audience, it is that the story development process. And we really want to, maximize our time with you to share that, and then really kind of let their questions hone in on that aspect.
Okay.
So audience, please keep submitting your questions. We see them coming in, so please keep submitting the questions, and we will break and get into those after this section. But what I want to do is hear the genesis behind the story, The Inventor. If you could get into that a little bit and just share with our audience, how this film was it's an official selection for the Annecy Festival, and we know that you spent many years in development and pounding the pavement to get this made. So can you share with us the story development process?
Sure. I mean, the Inventor, I've been developing, even when I was at Pixar, I was tinkering around with it. It came out of a short film I made called Leonardo. And that was done in drawn animation. And I learned a lot about Leonardo da Vinci, and I thought, wow, that'd be neat to turn it into a feature film because there's so much material. So I embarked on learning about him more, and I landed on this period of his life that's his last 3 years when he moved to France. And I thought, well, that's a small enough chunk to bite off. And I did more research on it, and I learned about the King Francis I, and I learned about Marguerite, his sister. And Marguerite was an amazing woman. She read books. She wrote books, her own books. She loved the arts. She was a patron of the arts and supported them. And she even was a politician and a noblewoman, and she was able to manage the peace between Protestants and Catholics as the Protestant Reformation was beginning. She even got her brother out of prison when he lost a war with the Spanish king. So she was wonderful. So I started to think, man, maybe Leonardo had a bigger impact on Marguerite than the king. So this gave me my kind of sort of dramatic connection and sort of a triangle with the king, Marguerite, Leo, and it started to create tension, and it was something to build a story on. And I think that's always very important. You need to develop your characters in a way that they will push against each other and have different goals that will conflict with each other. So that's what got me started thinking about this story. So the first thing I always do is research, and this was a research trip actually the crew took. This is Amboise Castle, and you can see them walking around inside the castle. And this actually, there's a scene in the film that we actually put in this location. This is in one of the towers in the castle. Now the whole film takes place in Amboise, France, or most of it. The beginning takes place in Rome. And this is where Leonardo lived in Amboise. This is a balcony area, which we have a sword fight in this area. So they're basically looking for different locations. So we do a lot of research. This research was interesting because this is what the castle used to look like. This is a map. And this is what it also looked like.
Sorry, Jim, the work is awesome. Is there a way, just so I could get the full picture, can you move that to presentation mode?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. It looks great. I just want to get all of this. I'm sitting here looking.
Bet. There we go.
Sweet. Thank you.
To see my desktop. So yeah, so this is what the castle used to look like, and then we developed it further. Get out of this now. Actually, it was the last slide. And let's show you. This is like a little model. This is actually from Amboise Castle, so we were able to use that as our model and I sort of jumped ahead here. I'll come back. And then this is what we built. So all of it came together, all that research and everything came together into the model we built for the film. Now, this is the same thing we will do for story. Every little detail we're going to research and figure out. So let's go back to here. All right. So, you know, starting with the character and figuring out what he's all about. This is Marguerite. Started to figure out who she is, what does she look like. And so as I'm writing a script, I'm also, the art is starting to develop. I will do a lot of doodles and all that kind of stuff. But then I start to bring in an art team. Now, when I started with the inventor, I was just paying out of my pocket, bringing on artists, because the artists start to inspire me while I'm writing, and my drawings inspire myself as well. And to me, storyboarding is the same thing as writing. It's just writing in a visual way. It's kind of how Pixar works as well. It's not about just illustrating a script. It's about writing in pictures and bringing it back into the written literary form. So by that process too, for me, I start to discover new things by doing that. And it's just unique in a way that feature animation, I don't know that all forms of animation really do that back and forth, but I love it. Pope's very big in this film. He's like a giant embodiment of the church. And again, that's only something I would find from drawing it. Like if I wrote that, it's not very visual, but in the script is the terrible cinematic tool because it's all words. So that's why Alexander McKendrick, who I mentioned earlier, loved animators, because you could start to visualize things through drawing. So even if you can't draw very well, I recommend just thumbnailing things and stuff and finding images that are inspirational, like paintings and everything. So this is one of my drawings, like, you know, trying to find the humor too that would be in an animated movie as well. You know, his poor little donkey with tons of stuff, but you know what, he's all right. He can carry all that. Just finding evocative images and you know, stuff. There's actually this moment from the film where he describes an ideal city, so here's an illustration for that moment. And you know, you just, by doing these, you just explore the story even further, and it gives you new ideas. So where the beauty is, and you know, and here's kind of a storyboard. It's more of a development art board, trying to figure out what the look will be. This moment in the film, very dramatic moment. And then again, it's like, this is a storyboard, but it was inspired by art, and this is a Doré etching, and I always loved it, and it really spoke to me as this moment that would happen with Leonardo. So, and this is it's a little later than Leonardo da Vinci's period, but it's in that realm. And then looking at Leonardo da Vinci's work a lot, this actually is a copy of the Last Supper done roughly around the time of Leonardo da Vinci. But they believe this shows the true colors of the Da Vinci painting. So we actually use this as a guide more than the original painting, because the original painting looks terrible. So it's fallen apart and everything. Even during Da Vinci's time, it was falling apart. So we wanted to capture the real colors. So when we go into storyboarding, we do a beat board. So you can see a lot of the images I just showed you on this board. And this kind of covers, there's some missing, but it covers the entire film. And so this is the most global aspect of the film in a visual term. And then we go into storyboarding and we break it down. This is my co-director did these boards. We just find like one, you know, sequentially an image. And here I have my notes for him, and we started to plan. You see in the lower right corner there. Started to plan the sets and everything based on these storyboards. So here's his boards on the left, and then here are my, sorry, it was the lower right. Here are my boards on the right, like notes on his sketches and stuff to show how I would restage it. There he is, my co-director, Pierre-Luc Grandjean. I couldn't have done the film without him. He was amazing. But here we're going over the storyboards. We have this big book, you could see it in the lower right, of all the storyboards and each sequence broken out in that way. And you know, we would constantly be evolving the story and the boards as we were making the film even. Do you want to take some questions now? Would that be helpful?
Oh man, we got tons of questions in queue. I'm sitting here all wrapped up in the presentation. It's
All right.
amazing. But yes, we do have tons of questions in queue. And you know, before we dive more behind the scenes, let's check in with our audience, and to help us field our questions, joining me will be our story experiential alumni, Lauren Britz. After completing story experiential in the summer of 2022, Lauren began working with the X in the Box team on our social media content. She has a master's in writing for script and screen and pursues screenwriting in her spare time. She's also been working on a fantasy novel. Welcome,
Cool.
Lauren.
Hi, everybody. Nice to, see you all, I guess. Not really see. I can see your questions. I guess that counts. So let's just dive straight into it. Our first question is from Ty, and he said, "What advice do you have for new stop motion storytellers?" He bought 2 stick bones puppets, and he just needs advice on getting started.
Well, I don't think it matters which form you're doing. It's still storytelling. So I don't know that stop motion is a different way to tell a story than 2D or anything. I mean, the only difference is thinking in terms of what can be accomplished in stop motion and what your limitations might be. Stop motion in itself has limitations, and one of which is gravity. And so you have to kind of develop your story idea to kind of form around or support the medium you're doing it in. So 2D, you're totally free as long as you can draw it. CG, you have to build the models in the computer. You may need some people to help you, or if you know all those things, then you can do it. And then stop motion, you know, many people develop a stop motion film on their own, but you need a story that would support that.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same process either way.
Okay. And then from Isla, she had a lot of questions, so I'm just going to pick a couple of them.
Okay.
In your case, does the initial script of a story differ much from the final result?
The initial script, the first script.
Yeah, the first script, your first draft.
Yes. Totally. It should. I don't know. There's a whole thing in script writing that is like, it's not written, it's rewritten, 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 and rewritten.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
And I've experienced it too.
Same with storyboarding. It's the same. You storyboard, storyboard, storyboard. Because like I said, it's part of the writing process.
Yeah, exactly.
So as you develop and you start taking this journey, you're going to come up with new ideas, and it kind of evolves from that initial idea. You know, my first draft or treatment, or however you start, is just getting it all down on paper and just like, you know, vomiting it out. Just getting it out. And then even with a treatment, I just, you know, if I don't know something, I'll just kind of blow over it and write what I do know and just try to connect the dots later on.
Yeah.
Because you just really want to move through it and get it out there and get something down and then rework it. And then it's really about reworking the story and going out there and I think researching it. So if you have an idea, you can write down what you know and then go out there and research it more, and the new ideas will come up, you know, and you can go talk to people, you could watch movies, documentaries, read books, any way you can get information about your subject matter or something close to what you're talking about, locations, people, anything. And this will all feed your story, so it keeps evolving.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It definitely always changes.
It does, yeah. And
It's
I
kind of
think
organic how it moves as
it's
well.
beautiful that way, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
alive.
it's
It's
lovely.
beautiful. You know, I always think of it as a little baby, you know, a little, like, even pre-baby, you know, like a little embryo. And it's, you have this idea, and then it starts growing and growing, and it has a life of its own as it keeps maturing and stuff. So my film is done, and now I have to kick it out of the house. It's going to college. It's going to face the world now, and it'll either be loved or hated or both, or who knows? Who knows what will happen? I have no control over it now.
Yeah. Now
Just
it's
like
out
my
in the world.
daughter, who's 19.
And talking about research, we have a couple of questions about that. So Andalee asked, how many hours do you devote to the research phase of your script writing?
Well, I don't know. It's just as much as you need. Just keep doing it. And I don't think it ever ends until you've made your film, and even then you'll be researching. Like I was showing you, those guys, that was my team researching the castle. I had already been there 10 years earlier and took my own photos. So they're going into production and they're researching it. So you're always researching, and you should always be open to research. It's not like, okay, I'm only going to research for 2 months and then that's it. And then I got everything I need. Because I don't think that's ever the case. I would like, because I'm thinking about the story all the time and I'm working on it and going through this process of, nurturing it, that I will stumble on something, or I'll hear something, or your kind of radar goes up to kind of pull in anything around this concept you're developing, and then you start going, oh, that's a neat idea, or that image is really cool, maybe I can put that into the story. So you always are doing it. Sorry.
It's a continual process. It's part of the
continual,
storytelling.
It's true, and it's lovely. You have to trust the process. That's what Joe always said. Joe Rampt.
Yeah.
You have to trust the process, and that's all you got is the process. Because if you just focus on the end of the script or the end of the story or the end of the movie, you're never gonna get there, and you're gonna drive yourself insane. I mean, this thing took 12 years to make. And
yeah, focus on the journey, not the destination.
That's right. It's all about the journey.
And then James asked, how do you like to do research for your work? What approach do you like to use to develop your findings into a story?
Again, I just read everything I can on the subject. I watch things. I talk to people. You just got to gather it, and then fill notebooks and or record stuff. I love the phone now has a little notes app. I fill that with things. However you can gather the info.
Yeah, from all the sources you can get.
I mean, look at all these books behind me.
Exactly.
I've read every one of them.
I think we have time for one more question. So let me see. Ken asked, what 3 books would you recommend for beginner storytellers?
Oh, okay. I would recommend Alexander McKendrick's book on directing. It's fantastic. It's actually a collection of notes from our classes we had. So it's a lovely book, compiling them and editing them down, and even has his little sketches in there. Definitely that. An older book too, which I guess might be dated a bit, but I love it, is Adventures in the Screen Trade by William Goldman. And this is one of the best screenwriting books ever written. That, and then I would read a lot of scripts, and try to find the original draft scripts if you can. I mean, there's a lot of books published with scripts, which is fine, but you kind of want to see how they're formatted and put together. It's very helpful. And you can just go online, and you can usually find scripts and stuff online.
Yeah. Great. So that's all the questions. Back
That's
to
it?
Dennis.
That is not it. But we do have
What?
There are more.
There are definitely more, and we will make more time for the questions later on. But looking at this film, as you were going through, it's just a beautiful look. And you chose to make it in both 2D animation and stop motion, from what it appears. And we'd love to hear more about the look of the film and how you landed on this stylization.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I made it coming out of my own sensibilities. The original short, the character's very simple looking. I should have this statue here pulled out. So this is made for the original short, and he's got this sort of cone body and stick legs and an M&M head, with nose. Very shape oriented, and I love developing characters around shapes. So he's very simple, and his eyes were just two black eyes. So I needed to develop the film to look like him, or decide, will I put whites in his eyes and will I make him more detailed and stuff. To me, though, I really wanted to keep it simple. But that, so that led the way. And then it started to look more like a Rankin and Bass, if you guys are familiar with like the Christmas specials and that we see every year. I just loved them, and I grew up with them. So I wanted it to kind of have an older stop motion look to it. I think I have some more stuff. I hope I organized this well enough. I could show you some. Here's a little video. He's a little cute little guy. It's very short. So you could see he's very simple. He's got a round head. This was what we called our sword master. He's missing his hat and mustache and stuff. This is a puppet test, and you could see he's very simple shapes. And the animators will do these little tests so that they could figure out, is the rig working, are the clothing working. So it's all designed in a way too that we could animate this in an economical way and not have to worry about too much detail and too many a lot of modern stop motion. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of, in the armatures, there's a lot of rigs and things in it. Where's all my stuff? I'm missing one. Oh, here we go. This is what we want to see. I already had it up. Okay. Sorry, guys. All right, so we have this castle. So everything's very simply designed, because we had a very low budget, and so we had to figure out ways to simplify things. And by simplifying the design, it helped us a lot. Here's our animator working on this shot. So you can see there's an armature for the horse. This is a really good armature, but it's just basically functional for what it needs to do. And then we did use a computer only for this one character, the lion, because we needed to 3D print pieces of it because you couldn't find them anywhere. So that's the only reason we used the computer. No computer animation. Then the armature would go to the puppet makers, and they would add the puppet, everything around the puppet, the head, and all the stuff, and then the clothing would be added. And again, just kind of trying to keep it very simple. And each piece of the puppet, you could see here, there's a nice little display. You have your armature on the left, and you could see the drawing above. It shows how the armature fits into the character. And again, you could see all those simple shapes of Louise. This is the mom. And then below, you could see the different variations on the head. Again, you're always trying to explore it. You're not like, okay, it's this, definitely this. It's like, well, maybe it's like this or that. And then you have to experiment a little bit. So it keeps continuing. And you make something really beautiful. All her hair was made of yarn, threads pulled apart. And again, just very simple shapes and things. There, this is the workshop at the studio where we made a folioscope, and you can see it's a true artist workshop. Props, you have to think of everything. It's amazing. And it's true of any kind of story, even a live action film. You would have to think about all that goes into it. Not so much as a writer, but you'd have a team. So if you're directing, you'll have a team of people around you, and you need to respect their abilities. And for me, it's creating a playground for them, that they bring their best stuff. They're like 100% of their artistic abilities, and not have to worry about stuff that isn't going into the film, right? I don't want them worrying about, will they get daycare? Will they have to get paid? Will they, or the guy who's sitting next to them and bothering them, or or I'm not clear enough with my direction, and they're confused. I want them to be as clear as possible. I want them to know the story, and so I always lay out the emotional moment and the story we're trying to tell, and why we're telling it, why this moment. And having written the script, I would know it. If you were directing something and having not written a script, I think you would have to really know the script very, very well, and the story very well, to be able to direct it. And so these guys are building the sets, again, keeping it very simple, or very simple sets. This is one of them. It's not very big. And and you have this whole team of lighters, and everybody's telling a story. This is always fun when they're poking their heads through pieces of the set and stuff, right? And so that, so it was really thinking about just how much budget we had, and to create a look around that. And so this would dictate the movement, this would dictate the look, and all of that. So when I was writing the script, I didn't worry about that too much, but it was always in the back of my head that I knew that it would be a low budget film. So, and I think you can you don't want to, it's hard, you don't want to hamper or constrain yourself too much when writing and creating a story. So try not to worry about it too much. It's just you may have to adjust and learn to edit later on, and kind of bring it.
Jim, when you had brought up some of the constraints that came up, how much do those constraints actually contribute to some of the creativity process of the work?
A lot. I love this quote from Orson Welles. He said, "The enemy of art is the absence of limitations." So having your limitations is great, knowing your boundaries, that you could make it. So there was a person who asked about writing a stop motion film. So again, knowing if you're making that on your own, then you should sort of create a story around that you feel like you could get done on your own. Like if you're making a little short, like when I made my short, the Leonardo short, I knew I was doing it on my own, so I did it in drawn animation. But I didn't, in drawn animation, there's a process of animating it. It's very rough, and then you clean it up into one line, and then you would paint it, fill it in and paint it with colors, and you'd have a colored background and all that stuff. Because I was doing about Leonardo da Vinci, I decided to make it look like his sketches. So then I could keep the rough drawn line. I could not color him in. I would just have a parchment background. So I would eliminate all these steps. And so, in a way, thinking about the feature, not that we eliminated steps, but we kind of tried to think about how to do them in a way that would fit in the story, and I could tell the story around our limitations. So, but I would oftentimes I would have planned something. I would, we had this amazing board. Actually, I have a picture of it, called the Big Board. And let me see if I can find it real quick. Nope. Oh wait, it's on this one. Sorry guys, got too many things open now. Yes. So this is the big board, and so it was filled with. It was 3 weeks long. You could see them up on top, and you could see which scenes were coming up and everything. So I would look at this board and I would see something down the line and I'd go, oh man, that's going to be really complicated. Basically, because I had to learn stop motion. I didn't know stop motion. So as I learned what was difficult and what was easier and more efficiently done, I could go through the film and go, okay, wait, this moment is going to be really complicated. Let me rethink it. Let me think of it in like 3 shots and stuff. And it wouldn't really change the story, but it would make the story more just creative in a way, just more a different way of telling it. So I might have, like, the usual way might have been putting a camera move in something to describe a scene. But instead I decided, well, what if I focused on this one little piece of the scene, like somebody writing, and then I went to their expression on their face instead of going camera move across a writing desk up to the person's face and stuff. And because of that cut, it gives you a different feeling than a smooth camera move, and maybe that feeling is a little bit closer to what I really need now. So I would go through and I would see what was going to be a problem. I would then rework it, and I could storyboard it. And I would show my co-director, Pierre-Luc, and I would go, hey, I got a new idea for this upcoming shot. And he would always get really worried because he thinks I was going to make it much more difficult. But I would show him what I wanted to do, and then he'd get really happy, and he would see that I simplified everything, and but made it even better, and he would get really excited. And I loved doing that. So as the film went on, I loved these puzzles. I would start to get excited about, let me rethink this. Again, it's about the process. It's just enjoying the process of making this things that we make, we can create. And I think if you're always thinking about the end, then you're not enjoying it, and it's gonna be hard for you. So just enjoy it. And it may never, like with a script, you may never get to see it, but you get to enjoy writing it. So may never get made.
And you know, as you're going through this, I'm telling you, I got tons of questions, and I love how you explained, you know, just that the way that process is. But I do got to turn it over to Lauren, because I know that there's a ton of questions. I told you right off top I had 1 million, and I don't want to take away from everyone else. So Lauren, could you send us some more questions in from our audience?
Oh, I can't hear you, Lauren. Your mic's on or off.
Lauren's just shy.
Sorry, I muted myself. So we have a few questions about character design. So let me just find them quickly. Sorry. How much does Ken asked? How much does character inform design?
Oh, it informs it immensely, for sure. I mean, if you have like a villain character, you could make them really big and imposing, or maybe they're like a tiny little, little sneaky little guy. So it depends on how that villain is. So we have this character, the Pope, in the film, and he's the embodiment of the church, and he has a lot of power, right? Because the church back then had an enormous amount of power. So I designed the Pope to be, as you saw in the illustrations, they're really big. And so it's a cartoon, so I caricatured it. And he is the biggest puppet, and he's just, takes up a lot of space. And he is imposing that way. But then you have a character later who is Louise, which is the mom, and I wouldn't say, she's not a villain. It's more of an antagonist. And I think that's a better term for the things your hero is up against is really an antagonist or antagonisms. And a villain character, a bad guy, can fit into that antagonism. But you could also have antagonisms that are the character itself, like like Leonardo. He had a lot of his own self-doubt and procrastinated and these things. So those are also antagonisms. So all these elements will go into how you develop your character and what they'll look like too, and then how the characters around them are also designed and support. Each design of a character needs to support each other. It's not you doing them alone in their own vacuum.
And
It's like they all have to work together as a team, as a unit.
and how would you how did you go about doing that? Because that's kind of one of the questions as well. How do you make your characters contrast from other characters in the story, and not only with design but also with personality, interests, and relationships? That's from Gabby.
Wow.
It's very long, I know. But
Yeah.
how do you decide on how to create a character and how to give them a personality and how they fit into your story and your main character? Like, how do
Okay.
you figure that out?
So as far as writing and developing a story, the main thing is your main character's goal, their main line, like what they're all about, and then that'll feed into their character, like what. And again, back to antagonism, what you're always trying to find in a story is you have a goal for your character, what they're after, and then you have to find all the ways you can think of that'll, not all the ways, but many, many ways that you're preventing your character from getting to the goal. You always want to have a lot of pushback against your character. Now, the way you do that is your character, the main character, can have issues, like I was saying, and then you have other characters that will also push back or support them getting there. And based on that is how you would develop your characters. So you want to find different personalities that would conflict or support your character. You want to find even different jobs, different things. Everything in the story needs to support that line. Either support it or fight it. And so even the way you develop character needs to do that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that good?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right. Lauren says it's great, so we're good.
I liked it.
All right.
And then Diego wanted to know, how did you decide on the shapes of your characters? Because I know that we've learned a lot about how shapes mean things, and like a round is a friendly, and sharper shaped characters are less friendly. So how did you decide on that, creating shapes for your characters?
So like Leonardo, he's built on a triangle shape mainly, right? And Leonardo da Vinci, the real one, he loved the triangle because it's one of the strongest shapes. So in thinking about that cone shape, I felt, well, that's perfect because that's Leonardo da Vinci's favorite shape. So I made him out of a triangle. And then, yeah, the round head, it's a soft head. It's kinder. Instead of like giving him a triangular head or something, that would be sharper. And maybe you could say, well, he's sharp, right? He's very smart. So, but that wouldn't be appealing necessarily to look at constantly in that way. You want it to evoke a kindness. So yes, rounder shapes are kinder. Although you could have a very big round guy and he's got maybe a little teeny head and he's a villain character. But again, it's like a large version could be very intimidating. I don't know. It's like, I think mostly it's what feels appealing to you. I don't know.
What works for you as you're making the story?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's definitely a language to shapes, for sure.
And you can always have something that is like a contrast. So even if the villain can look like a happy round character, but actually be not that.
Yes, for sure. I mean, you could have like this little tiny guy who, and lots of times in cartoons, you'll see like the little villain is this little
villain,
dude, and or woman, and they're just really nasty, because they have like a Napoleon complex or something. So you can play around with it to give you different things.
And Pam asked, can you share a quick overview of the process of kicking off a production process or scene?
Of kicking off a scene?
So how you go about doing it.
When we're in production?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would meet with the animator, with the directing animator. We would meet, and I would talk about the shot, and I would say, okay, this is the goal of the shot. This is like what we're trying to get from it. Like Leonardo is trying to do X here, or convince this character, or this is a reaction to something. And I would try to explain it through emotional, like the emotion of it, like the humor, emotion, and try to give the actor, the animator, as much information as I can that way. I would even act it out for them, and we talk about it. They would ask questions, we talk about it, and then once I felt they were ready, they would jump into the shot. And sometimes with this, we would do what we called a kind of a blocking shot, a blocking of it, and they would animate it very quickly, and just in like 10 poses or something, and you could kind of see how the flow of the scene would go, or the shot would go. And then I would check on that. The directing animator would always check on that. Then my directing animator was Kim Kukulari, and she had worked with Wes Anderson on all his movies. Even the last one, she animated the alien. If anybody's seen it, hopefully I'm not ruining anything. There is an alien in it, and she did that in stop motion, and she was the only animator. So she's amazing. So she was our directing animator over all the animators, and so she would like guide them. So we'd do all that. She would do a block. They would see that, and then I would give notes on that, and then they would go, and I'd never see the animator again for a week. They would just get locked away in their cave, and and if they had a note, if they had a question, Kim would be the first one they would talk to, and then if there was a bigger issue, she'd come find me, and we'd talk about it. So that's kind of how each one was launched.
Okay. That's pretty cool. And then someone wants to find out, Ken, he wanted to find out, do you have any tips for how to get a mentor for a beginner storyteller?
How to get one? I wish there was like getamentor.com, I guess. Maybe there is. There might be something like that. I don't know. I think I would try to get out there, and maybe you're taking classes, maybe you can join some organizations. There seems to be a bunch out there, like script writing groups and things. Find places where a mentor might be, and I think, and I don't know. I keep stumbling on them, finding them. So I think it's just a matter of getting out there. I mean, the way I found them is that, I went to school, and then I had a, I lucked out, and then I had a great teacher, and then I don't know. How do you find your Obi-Wan Kenobi?
It is tricky, but I did find that like writing groups are really good, because like your peers, even though they are still on the same level as you, they have different experiences and knowledge, and you can just share that, and it's really great.
It's really getting out there and meeting more people who are like-minded. I mean, a mentor doesn't have to be an old person.
Exactly. Some
It
a
could
veteran
be.
in the
No, I mean, it could be somebody who you get their support. I mean, when you're developing a story, you have on the hero side, you have your allies, and you have your which a mentor is, and that's what you're looking for in life. You're looking for, your allies who will help support what you're doing, and also a good ally too will tell you when you're doing something wrong. So you can, you need that as well. You don't want all these yes people around you. You really want people who challenge you and make you a better person as well.
Yeah.
So, and a better writer and a better creator. So don't be afraid of those people too, who challenge you a bit. That's good.
So a couple, I think 2 more questions, and then we're done. So Isla, she also asked a lot of questions, so I'm going back to her. Do you prefer to write or direct a story? Which do you find is more complex?
Well, they're both very different. So I've never directed anything I didn't write, I guess. I think, well, I mean, maybe, well, I didn't really direct the movie, but Mary Poppins, the 2D, I kind of directed it, but I had a director over me that could he could say, no, I don't like that. So, but I guess that would be if I had an executive over me that told me what to do. But so I don't know, because it's always been writer director for me, and but I think, I don't know. Well, I do more writing is easier in the sense that you can just write. You don't have anybody else telling you what to do. So you have anybody asking you questions, because the directing is all about answering questions. It's not about this is my vision, you must all bow down to me and listen to what I have to say. It's really about just fielding questions all day long and making sure you answer them in a way that helps support the artist. It's the scariest thing in the world, though, because you may not know the answer, and you have to give an answer. So you can either say, well, if you have time, you could say, I don't know, and I will get back to you very soon, let you know. If you don't have time and you need to make a decision right on the spot, you have to make a decision right on the spot, and you can ask people around you. I think that's fine. What do you guys think? Get information. But eventually you need to make the decision. And I think this is where a lot of directors or people who think they can direct fail, is that they need to jump off the cliff and just go, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then basically, if it doesn't work, you have to go, oh shit, that didn't work. Sorry, I just cost the production thousands and thousands of dollars. Either that, or you have to accept it and go, damn it, that wasn't quite the right thing. All right, let me see.
There definitely seems to be more pressure being a director, I think.
Oh yeah, totally. So you have to be ready for that pressure. I don't know. There's been points where when I was directing, going, "Why the hell am I doing this?" So, in a way, writing it's insular. You can escape to your cabin in the woods and disappear for months and come out with your novel or your script or whatever, and then you have to just suffer criticism and stuff. But it's not,
and rejection.
Rejection, of course. Yeah, part of it.
It's all part of the process.
Yeah, process. It's all about process, guys.
Exactly.
All that matters. It's life. Life is a process.
Michelle asked, is 3D or 2D animation harder or more taxing? And which gives the character more facial expressions, in your opinion? Which one do you think is better?
Well, if you're talking 3D, like computer animation, there's hand-drawn, computer, stop motion, as far as the major storytelling animation forms. I mean, there's tons of other forms like pin screen and pixelation and lots of other forms of animation. But those three, well, they're different beasts. I think they're all equal in difficulty. Everybody thinks stop motion's the hardest, but it's just where the emphasis is put. Stop motion is much more technical in the sense of to build everything, and you need a lot of craftspeople around you to do it. But as far as the actual characterization, probably the easiest one now for that is probably computer animation to some extent. But it depends on how it's rigged and works. So 2D is amazing because you could do anything as long as you can draw it. So you can do quite a lot there. If you can draw very realistic people and very realistic emotional things, then might be able to pull it off. But like computer animation, you could do stuff with the eyes that none of the other forms can do, where they can just shift a little bit or twitch like our eyes do. You can probably get the closest to like live action. I mean, we see these movies like Lion King remade and Jungle Book and stuff, and like they're basically live action movies. They're not animated movies. or they're animated movies. They're not really live action movies, is what I should say. So, but everybody calls them live action because the animation is so like particular and detailed and stuff. So that's why I think probably computer animation is probably, you can now with the technology you've been able to get the most subtle stuff. The next is probably 2D, where you can get really flowing animation and you know, really broader animation. CG, when it gets really broad and like you stretch an arm or something, it gets weird. And then stop motion has a certain rigidity to it. You can only do what you build. So you're much more weighted down. And then so like character expression, I mean, they definitely, even like Leica and stuff, they add like computer, they can, and I believe, this is what I've heard, they'll animate the heads in computer, or the expressions in computer animation, and then translate that to stop motion. And or augment the stop motion with computers. So
I tell you, Jim, I'm just in here, I'm telling you, I'm amazed that, you know, when you said that stop motion was not your forte, and here you are making a stop motion.
Well, make a film for 2 years, you'll learn a lot.
I mean, it's amazing just to get the view into your process behind creating this film. And we can't wait to see it. I know I'm looking forward to seeing this. Unfortunately, though, our time is, sometimes you just wish you could eliminate time, but those constraints.
I know, right?
But, you know, for the audience, I do want you to stick around for our office hours afterwards. But Jim, if you can provide us, it's actually two things. Before we say goodbye to you, you know, we always conclude with final advice for our audience. So that's, you know, if you could think about just some final advice for our audience. And then another question that I just see has been blowing up. People want the merch, man. They want to know where they can get the Da Vinci puppets. So there's been a lot of questions about that. So just letting you know, if it's not already in mass production, there's also participants asking if that's needed. So,
I think, all right. Okay, we know we have customers out there. That'd be great. Sure. Love it. As far as advice, I think another mentor of mine, was the guy Bernie Mattinson, who I worked with at Disney. He was an old-time story artist. He also went back to the Walt days, like Jungle Book time. He said to me, I was freaking out about a scene I was storyboarding. It was when Simba and Mufasa are like under the stars. It was the last time he was going to see his dad. He's going to have the stampede scene next, and he's going to lose his father. So, and the next time he would see his dad is a ghost in this coming down from the sky. So I had to write the scene that would be before the stampede is the last time we're going to see him. And I was like freaking out. I was a young storyboard artist. I went to Bernie and I said, Bernie, I don't know what the hell to do. I'm lost. And he's like, Jim, calm down. Just start with what you know. And that I've kept that forever now. And so if you're ever writing and you're stuck, or creating and you're stuck, then just take a step back and go, well, what do I know? And then you'll always know something, so you can then build from there. So especially if you're trying to figure out an idea, or you've been given an assignment or something, you can always start with what's been done before around the project, what the research you've been doing, what has that been telling you? You know something, so start there.
Nice. I can't express enough. It's been just an honor, and we just appreciate you so much for just joining us and inviting us into your story process. As far as the film, it is a charming design. I truly love that. And Jim, we appreciate your time and hope that you can join us again. And
sure. Everybody go see the movie September 15th.
September 15th.
It's a indie low budget film. It's an animated indie film. It needs word of mouth. So we need you guys to do it. And I have to say, it's been an honor for me to join you all and pass on a little bit of information I have. And I don't know everything. I don't claim to know, but hopefully you learned a little bit of something. Thank you.
Learned a lot. Thank you very much. And because we have gone over in time, guys, we just do want you to know that we will continue to take your questions for office hours, and we'll get back to you via email. If you have any, or just hit the help button, and we will get to you with any questions that you may have for office hours. But what I do want to do, I can't say this enough. I want to thank Lauren, our co-host. Lauren, exactly what city are you in and what country? And then we'll disclose what time it is. Well, I guess we're from around the world, so everybody's on a weird time, because I think my time is weird here in Pittsburgh.
I'm in Manchester in the UK, and it is currently 6 minutes past 2 in the morning.
Thank you very much. And I will not complain about it being 9 p.m. here in Pittsburgh. And wherever time you are in the world, or wherever time zone you're in, we hope that you found tonight's session just valuable to you. And we thank Jim for his time with us. Please note that we will not have a live stream on September 4th in observance of U.S. Labor Day holiday. Our next live stream will be the September exhibition celebration and award ceremony on Friday, September 15th. So mark your calendars and go see The Inventor when it releases in the U.S. on September 15th. And if you're in France, you can catch it on January 26th next year. Is that correct?
That's right. Something around there.
That's a wrap.